Letters from Rifka, Chapter 9, March 1920. With freedom seed, the desert sowing, I walked before the morning star. Pushkin. March 17th, 1920, Antwerp, Belgium. Dear Tova, today I have met Antwerp. Even though it is still winter, the air blew soft and mild today. All along my walk back from the convent, windows were open, sounds from the houses drifted out into the street. I took a different route home, turning down one new lane, then another and another. I passed millineries and bakeries and big department stores. I passed barbers and markets and tailor shops. I came to a cafe, with heavy wooden doors flung wide open. Big green flower pots sat on either side of the doorway, and a wild, strange music streamed out from the dark room. Most amazing of all, a giant man stood there, filling the doorway of the cafe. I had never seen such a man before. I thought my papa and my brothers were big, but they were nothing beside this man. I must have been staring. The giant looked down at me. He grinned, a grin so wide it was like the entrance to a tunnel. Inside that enormous mouth were teeth of pure gold. I know you will not think this very clever of me, Tova, but when I saw all those shining teeth in his huge dark mouth, I was afraid. I turned and started running. I ran and ran until I could run no more. Leaning back against a low brick, I grasped for breath. I didn't recognize anything. I tried to find my way back, but I couldn't. The sun began to set, and the warmth of the day vanished. A brisk wind blew through the streets, up the alleys, across the canals. I had not enough clothes on. I tried to keep myself from shaking, but the twilight chilled me. I was lost. I did not have the least idea how to get back to the house on King Street. A milkman steered his horse and cart up the narrow street in the twilight. The cart clinked softly with empty bottles. I followed him, remembering Uncle Zeb and his horse, Lotki, and how Uncle Zeb would take me for rides when he didn't have business. I did not know what this milkman would do to me if I stopped him. Uncle Zeb would have helped a lost child, but in Berdichev, if a Jew stopped the wrong person, they might end up dead. I am not in Berdichev, I told myself. I am in Antwerp, and Sister Katrina said the lady from the Highest had told me not to fear the people of Antwerp. Well, I thought, if I am to make it to my room tonight, I had better ask someone. So I called to the milkman sitting tall in his cart. Please, I asked, can you show me the way to King Street? He was tall and thin. He had a black mustache that hid his mouth altogether. Please, I said again, beginning in Flemish, finishing in Yiddish. I am very lost. And he climbed down out of his cart. He smiled at me. I could tell he smiled by the way his mustache lifted around his chin. He took my face in his long fingers and smiled down at me. King Street, he said. Come. The milkman clicked softly to his horse. My uncle drove a cart, I said, jabbering nervously, as he walked through the streets of Antwerp. His horse's name was Lotki. I don't know where Lotki is any more. Bobby Roos sold him after my uncle's death. The milkman led his horse with one hand. He offered me his other. I hesitated for a moment, then took it. My uncle used to take me for rides in his cart when he had no customers. I chattered in a mixture of Flemish and Yiddish, gripping the milkman's hand tightly. Not that I don't like walking. I don't mind walking at all. The milkman nodded, even though he could not understand all I said to him. It is very nice of you to help me, I said. My uncle is nice too. I think maybe you are a lot like him. My uncle is a very patient man. The milkman glanced down at me. His mustache hairs tickled his bottom lip. His eyes were two warm coals in his long face. It felt good to be talking to him, holding his hand like I would hold Papa's or Uncle Avram's or Uncle Zeb's. The milkman not only took me back to King Street, which I can only think was well out of his way, he took me to my very own door on King Street. Tova, he did not look like Uncle Zeb, except for the kindness in his eyes, but still, while I was with him, I felt Uncle Zeb near me. Outside the door of my house in Antwerp, the milkman bowed to me in parting. I would not let go of his hand. There were hairs along the back of it, stiff, dark hairs. I do not know why, Tova, but I took that long hand of the milkman and pressed it to my lips. I kissed the strong, leathery hand of the milkman, right out in front of the house on King Street. I never had a chance to say goodbye to Uncle Zeb. The soldiers shot him as he came out of his house. That was that. Kissing the hand of the milkman, I felt at last I could say goodbye to Uncle Zeb, too. The milkman bowed to me once again. Then he lifted his long legs into his cart and drove away. It is late now. My candle burns low. I wonder, Tova, how do you thank people for such kindness? I never knew strangers could be so kind. Do you think my brothers Asher and Reuben and Isaac would have done as much? I hope so. Shalom, my dear cousin, Rifka.